Welcome Beast, welcome Havoc. This is going to be your VOD review. Before we get started with the actual VOD portion, I just want to to go over the itinerary of this video. So we're going to start out shortly here with an op.gg review. This is just going to be baseline review, obviously. I am not able to know exactly what is happening in the game, but from results-based analysis, we can kind of infer what is working, what is not. Afterwards, we will get into your first two scrim matches, Beast, and then we will get into the solo queue, duo queue game that you both played together. And then finally, we'll come back here just for some round out thoughts and champion suggestions moving forward. But without further ado, let's get started here. All right, so we're looking at a Bronze 2 account right now with about 227 games played this season, looking at a comfortable 50% win rate. Obviously, you know, we're trying to regain that Silver 4, Silver 3, or even potentially even higher. Let's look at your flex here. Gold 2, 11 LP is our peak. Okay, we're doing better in flex just because it's a little bit more coordinated. So let's talk about actually how we can beat out solo queue and beat out the solo queue mentality. So just a quick glance at this so far, it seems as though you're really accelerating on the Samira and not so much on the Xayah. It looks like you're really forcing the Kai'Sa here. I just want to keep looking at how exactly we're building the Kai'Sa. Because some games you're going Terminus, some game like Terminus second, some games you are going Rageblade second. 67% win rate, Yasuo Bel'Veth. I'm going to assume here that you're actually queuing for bot and jungle here, just because of Gwen. I'm going to assume that you're going to play this Gwen in the jungle. I just wanted to note here that in my experience, whenever I've always suggested to specific players to play something, it's typically because, actually it seems like you're queuing top here as your secondary, sorry. It's always because it comes out of necessity to play everything, right? When we play League, we're always thinking about different things, and one of those things are counter matchups. Now, counter matchups are all dandy, but when we have massive success like the Kai'Sa, I think that we just need to slam the Kai'Sa, meaning to say, like, we just need to pick it, right? And with the Kai'Sa, we obviously need to pick some type of accelerated lane. So if both of you are doing together, I would always suggest going the Kai'Sa with an engage. Enchantress support such as Lulu, Karma, Janna have their place, but currently engage forms are the best for the Kai'Sa. If you wanted a best of both worlds scenario and you wanted a little bit of the engage and you wanted a little bit of the peel that Enchantress provide, I would suggest pivoting then to a Rakan support, or at least asking for a Rakan. Rakan Kai'Sa is always probably the most notable and deadly Kai'Sa lane just because of how versatile they are, mobile they are. But I really like the Kai'Sa so far here. It seems that Kai'Sa is absolutely killing it for you. As is the Kalista just from short view and Nyla. So any champion that can trade really up close. Your forte might not be necessarily the Caitlyn, the Jinx, the champions that will scale off of attack speed. It might just be a caster. So yeah, definitely keep it up. I would honestly suggest looking at doing potentially practice drills in terms of your CSing. You're averaging out to be like a 7 CS per minute. Depending on like what elo you are, I would always suggest bumping that up to 8. There's some games where you're absolutely crushing it, 8.8 right here, 8.2. But then there's other games that we're kind of falling back, right? It's all about finding our balance between looking for fights and then looking for CS. Obviously, we'll get into it a lot more when we actually look in depth, but my biggest suggestion is tending to the waves, because the majority of your gold in this specific lane is being lost to your opponent who might be out CSing you. Right? And that's the difference between every single level of League. It's bringing on those small nuances that change up the dynamic of the game entirely. Because 20 CS at any given moment is about the kill equivalent, is about the gold equivalent rather to a kill. Right? So if we are down gold and we are just giving waves here on after, and we are forcing fights, we are looking constantly for fights, you know, we need to kind of balance it. We need to make sure that waves are pushed before we go for objectives. That way it also adds a little bit of pressure, and seeing how you are fed, you absolutely can do that, right? Because there's really no threat of just kind of someone coming out of the woodworks and just running past the wave. But if there is a wave, that has to then kind of tether them to it, because they might not have as much gold as you, right? They're skirmishing constantly and they're losing out on some of these huge games. Yeah, and I strongly think that's going to be the jump for you specifically from the bronze to upwards. I think that these score lines are very indicative that like clearly you don't deserve to be here, but we're finding little mistakes here and there. It might be a team difference here and there, but at the same time, you know, when we play solo queue or duo queue for that matter, there's only so much that we can do to control our own actions. And solo queue is one of those wild bags where some days you might have fantastic teammates, and then some days you might just have bottom of the barrel. So that could be the case, but in terms of what we can definitely change, I would look at CSing and I would look at just general warding areas, right? Making sure that we are, if we are as fed as we are and we are looking to bounce our waves, increase our CS counts per game, then we are also looking at potentially just making sure that like there's no type of traffic lane, there's no tempo ward vision score, or sorry, vision lane that they can cross through where they're going to catch us on a blind side, right? Especially if we don't have these key summoner spells like flash, alt, barrier, ghost, whatever it may be. Again, this part's going to be just a quick overview. I really want to specialize and get really into depth with your VOD review because there's only so much info I can see from green and blue. So yeah, but anyways, second here is going to be Havoc. Havoc, let's see yours. We're starting with a little bit of red, but that's okay. We have Blitzcrank. Poppy does not seem like the Blitzcrank nor engages are working too much out for you. You have a lot of success on the Poppy. I see you're slamming it here and there, but for the most part, it's kind of a mixed bag. We're going to ignore the SR or ARAM games or whatever. Yeah, so it seems like you're actually a poke support, so like an enchanter support, so like a Lux Morgana, I would assume Seraphine here as well, Zerath, potentially a Zyra. I think that your champ pool is very kind of teetered towards it. Again, I'll get into like the nuances of what exactly I'm looking at here, but Halo Blades, I would suggest not going Halo Blades. I know that Halo Blades is like the very big popular kit on the block, but I would also suggest that if you really wanted to go for skirmish in the Poppy lane, just either go for the Dark Harvest because they're going to be squishy more times than not, and you will be able to proc it very often if you are in the lane and shoving out the lane as you have been in these games. Or alternatively, I would suggest going the Aftershock. That way, if you do end up setting some of these key targets or negating them out of team fights entirely, then you are not just out about with your wits about you. You actually have something there to give you a little bit of an edge and give you a little bit of comfortable space where you can breathe. I like the Praetorian boots here, or Predator boots, whatever they call it now. This is fine. I think a lot of these games, what you're doing is you're hyper indexing into their specific carries. I think what instead you need to do is you need to index into their utility that's setting up their carries. So in the case of this game, like you go tier 3 boots, I think this should have been mercs here because the Lux more than likely is just setting it up, and the slows and the thresh hooks are exactly what's kind of costing you your life here. We have Lucidity boots upgrade into this comp. A little bit tricky. This is definitely a comp where you definitely wanted to go mercs as well. Yeah, it doesn't seem too bad. We're going for like safe poke here and there. Yeah, I would just suggest looking at our runes and making sure that we are either playing with assisted tools, meaning Blitz, Porofessor, whatever you need to do, even u.gg on a separate screen, but also that we are kind of thinking retroactively in terms of the lane. We're not just following these guides blindly, and we are thinking like, you know, I need this in order to do this, right? The Zillion Grasp might be recommended, but at the same time, did we really need the Grasp into a Jhin who's going to be auto-attacking us when we're trying just to proc a Grasp proc? Or did we instead need the Summoner Aerie or Comet to poke him out and shove out the wave, force the Yuumi to constantly spam her W heal? Right? Just different things kind of contributed. And yeah, just like I said earlier, Morgana Lux player, I would not be surprised if I saw Zerath here. I don't see a Zerath. I think that maybe you need to pick that one up. Gives a lot of CC as well, can go through minions. It's exactly like Lux pretty much. So it's your nice little safety net there. Seraphine Nico, I would suggest maybe potentially picking up a Zyra. I don't see the Zyra here. Zyra is very potent, and I think that would absolutely gel well with your playstyle. I like the Swain that I saw, though. There's a little bit of a Swain little peak. Okay, Bronze 2, though. Same boat. We haven't played as much games as Beast. Beast is beating you by about 170 at this point. But you are 53 LP down from him. Former platform player in Flex. Nice. So obviously you understand like how to get to that high level. It's just a means of like, when are we playing? Are we spam playing? Are we tilt queuing? Like, are we getting into a game when we're tilted after the last one? Are we warding efficiently? Are we making sure that we are pushing tempo? Are we playing with our laners? Are we playing with our AD carry? Okay, this isn't too bad. Only 3 purchases of pink wards though. 4, sorry. Whenever you can, try getting your pink wards as soon as possible. This is way better. Making sure that we're constantly refreshing it, but with 2 each time when you're on support. That way you are protecting the vision pockets. You are the one actually building pressure. I think it goes a very, very long way here. Yeah, this one's a little bit more scarce here, only twice in this game. All right. So, like I mentioned earlier, though, that portion is done. It's now actually time to put our money where our mouth is. And let's take a look at your game 1 here. As I understand it, this is game 1 of a scrim block. You'll have to forgive me, Havoc, if you are not in this game, but I talk as if you are. I'm just going to reduce the game volume here just a little. And because we have 3 VODs to go over, I'm going to pretty much just kind of play this on 2 times speed as our default. If there's a specific play that I want to look over, I will slow it down. Okay, this is a little bit of a weird start here. So we are doing the correct pathing. I think here, and I know this is neither of your roles, but my best suggestion is if this is a coordinated play, what you need to do is if you're going to be pathing into their river, trying to go for early gank in terms of going for their push into just cross around here, I would always suggest having jungler ward that. This should be jungle or support's path. And by the time your team actually reaches that try, or at least reaches this middle bush, you will be there as well. Only reason for this is because it actually protects you from a counter invade. In the case that like here, you guys are invading and they actually might walk down, excuse me, into the raptor area. This ward, if Vi goes over, if Vi's looking for flank sitting on our try instead, this entirely covers it. But that's just a little nitpick here and there. So far the invade though is looking pretty good. My screen went blank here. I'm not quite sure why. I'll get it back in a second. There we go. I think it's because it's on full screen mode. There we go. All right. So let's take a look at exactly what happens. We're going bush to bush. This is absolutely correct. Nice little pick there. We have the flash. Nice. Make sure that we're always timing flash as well. So in chat, I can't see what you're going to be typing here, but we're adding 5 minutes. So this should be at least a 540 or 550 flash. And so using that knowledge here as support, we want to make sure that, or AD rather, we want to make sure that we always have the tempo for it. So let's take another look here. Now as Leo is going to be pressuring, we just kind of give out our positioning. And so it's a little bit tricky here. So it's really tricky to actually be playing this with Leona kind of going back and forth, especially into like the poke that you are doing. I just think Leo needs to play absolutely up. There's really no threat. And the flash is kind of wasted here. Yeah, we just kind of give over first blood for no apparent reason. Great flash response. Let's rewind here. Because this is basically our tempo, right? Whenever there's an advantage in lane, that's tempo. Let's look at our tempo real quick. So Leo goes here. Right there, she's on vision. She's crossing out. She's still hiding. Appears now. Hit the wave, just shove. Reason why you want to shove this, you have 2 circumstances. You can either shove into them. They can't walk up because Lux then needs to walk fully down in order to E, and she would waste her mana. And Caitlyn has no poke pressure on the Kalista, who is very range kind of skewered compared to the Caitlyn. And the other version would be that like Leo here can now go for like priority warding. She can absolutely try to, if she's not having red here, she can absolutely go for some type of tri-bush push. Especially with wards and blocking out early level 2s. You knew that already, like she's going to empty out bot because of this specific ward. And so you can only assume that she's topside or on wolves. But here, we're just like going back and forth super awkwardly. And like Leo's not really doing anything. She ends up hitting the wave, but by the time she ends up hitting the wave, it's like absolutely way too late. We're not playing parallel to the wave, right? So lane dichotomy dictates that if we are playing parallel to the wave, we're moving absolutely here, right? Parallel to the wave. As wave pushes in, so do we. We are not absolutely walking all the way up here because the wave is not able to manage. And if there's a fight that starts out, it doesn't even matter about the wave, right? This is dependent on the Kalista being able to move. Kalista's not able to move, whereas Lux and Caitlyn both have priority here on the Leo. And that's exactly what happens, right? There's a little bit of a skirmish here. Leo's trying for something. She doesn't have the angle, I'm guessing, or maybe she just does not really want to go for it. Either way, we know that Lux still has no flash, so this is our tempo here. We need to push it. And if we are calling here, which you should be at this point, calling for level 2 advantage, because that is Leona's spike, we absolutely just need to play off of it. One more minion and then she will be level 2 here. Leo just walks up. Here, Leo walks up and E's. Don't get zoned out by the E, it doesn't matter, you would have healed it anyways. Unfortunately, Kalista misses Q, but we land the flash E on the person who does not have flash. I don't think Leo actually used Q either there, so rather than being stunned, Caitlyn basically just walked back, and that is first blood. So already, you know, now we are getting zoned here in the bot lane because that was our huge tempo. That was exactly what we wanted, and we just gave away our lead. And unfortunately, now Kalista actually has to back. So this is going from a bad situation to an even worse situation. I think you could have absolutely picked up a control ward as well and just put it into the pixel there that Leo's sweeping out just to gain some vision control back and some lane pressure back. But regardless, now we understand that they are going back and forth. We're trying our best to hold the freeze here. It's not going to entirely shove, and it's very awkward here because remember how I mentioned earlier that if they are by their tower, they cannot poke you. This is basic like lane etiquette. So I'm going to break down a concept. You might have seen it from my other reviews, but this is always something I like to call the wave state lines. Right? There's different names for this. There's the action pathways. There is the tempo lanes. I've called it different things throughout my years. And these lines might not be entirely accurate, but this is more or less just kind of what we're going to go off of. Okay. So this is the B line. B is neutral. Anything that touches B or remotely close to B, kind of in that vicinity, is considered neutral. So when a wave is reset, a wave that is reset, we call it a neutral wave. A wave that is anywhere here, right? Same kind of width as that neutral line is going to be kind of closer towards us, and we can actually hold this as a freeze. Anything that is slightly across this width again on the A line is considered a freeze. Anything that is on the C line, or at least that type of width, is called they are holding, or it is slow pushing, because we actually, on their side, we have the notion of pushing in the wave. As Caitlyn is doing currently to us, she's trying to push in this wave, so we are not holding a freeze. We are able to do that exactly to them. Now, this is wave states, right? So a wave that moves past A, we call that shoving, or it's crashing. A wave that moves past B towards C is slow pushing for us. A wave that moves from B to A is slow pushing for them. A wave that pushes past C is called we are crashing. You know, they are crashing, we are crashing. And this obviously switches per side you are. So in the case of red side here, if we have our arrow past A, we are crashing. Our wave behind us on our tower, we are getting shoved. Okay, that's a little bit of a crash course, and there's a little bit of tempo in terms of these wave states too. So it's not all just about waves. What I like to talk about too is jungle dynamics. So you don't even need to be a jungler to understand this, but typically when the wave is on A, that means that these two have to respond to the wave. Again, remember, they need to either deny a shove by pushing this, or sorry, deny a freeze rather, by pushing this in and shoving, or poke us out. And that's basically where enchanters really want to come alive, where they are able to free poke without any type of fear of repercussion. Why do they have no fear of repercussion? Because you need to run past this wave, right? And if you run past this wave, you no longer are holding it. Or worse, some champions that we might play might not be able to split our abilities through minions. Blitzcrank is a very notable one. Thresh is another. Nautilus is another, right? Leo does not have that kind of hindrance to her, but regardless, this is Lux's preferred area. Why is this also Lux's preferred area? It's because she's pretty much far away. You have to walk entirely through the wave. If the wave pulls on you, you're going to get chunked and she can stun you. Now, luckily for us, she does not have enough mana here, so that point does not really stand this game, but regardless, I just wanted to call that out. Now, there's a very interesting thing as well, and I'm going to highlight this with green. Wave states, as I mentioned earlier, are not just indicative of actual laners. And this concept also goes lane to lane. So this is not just something in terms of bot. This is something that is in every single major lane. The line definitely does change, but regardless, it's always kind of the same thing. But in terms of bot, let's reset this line. That's a little bit more even right here. So let's talk about jungle pathing, right? I keep mentioning it, but let's actually get to it. So if the wave is on A and if they are trying to shove, right? Let's consider this, the wave. Very crude circle, so you'll have to excuse me. I never went to art school. If the wave is here, this means that the potential for us to have our jungle gank is high. Why is this high? Because, and again, green is going to represent jungle. He has 2 paths of ganking here. That's 1. This is the 2nd. He has 2. It really depends on what he's playing and what you are playing in the bot lane, but he has that first entrance and the second entrance, right? And the first entrance, if he runs absolutely perpendicular to them in a diagonal stance, he can cut them off. Why is he actually going to cut them off? Because Lux's only move at this point is to run up. Right? And if he's walking perpendicular, he eventually will land some type of ability. Remember here, Lux, this is very situational as well, but she does not have flash, so more or less this would be absolutely a kill if he's able to flash over the stun and or she misses. Okay? In number 2 scenario here on how he would gank, Leona actually needs to start off that gank or some type of other CC support or AD, right? The reason why this potential is high here is because their wave is all the way up to our A line. Again, we can be the ones to freeze it. We are the ones who dictate how this lane goes. It's really tricky, but this is exactly what we're going to be doing here. I just wanted to also let you know that if we are here, if our wave now is all the way up here on their C line, their potential to get ganked from our jungler becomes low. Why is it low compared to high over here? High, they actually have something that they are tethered to. Low, they have the safety of their tower. They just run into tower. Now question, because we can always dive, is that still considered a high capability of getting ganked? No, because that is actually going to expend resources. You know, resources in the form of you need guaranteed CC with ultimate, you need guaranteed CC with summoner spells, you need guaranteed CC with sacrificing a death potentially, right? When we're diving, we're not going in with the full 100% confidence that everything will be all right. You have 2 methods, either go from above the tower or go below. If we are going from below the tower, you might be able to flash out. If you're going from above, you need to sandwich them. And that's always very, very tricky in actually getting a pull. Or getting a pick, rather. All right, so we talked about high and low potential. And in this circumstance, we have high potential right now. So all we need to do, again, is hold this wave here. If the wave is very unmanageable for us, what we just need to do is we need to trim it. So this is perfect. Our jungler's right next to us. We're not able to hold it. Leona at this point at least needs to just walk up here and focus the threat. Here we just kind of go a little bit too far forward. This is fine though, since we are winning and Lux again still has no flash. Leona will go down, so this is going to be 1-for-1. Caitlyn barriers. And Kalista cleans it up. Nice. Good call on the back. By the time you come back, your wave will be slow pushing towards them or go back to that neutral position. And again, look at that. Our wave is on neutral. And so now it's just a means of who can touch it first, right? Will Lux and Caitlyn look to trim it and shove it again? Probably, right? Because that's kind of Lux's preferred area. And that's exactly what she's doing right now. Great move from Leo. If you want to play for a pick, you need to run parallel, but we're not doing that. You need to just run at their cutoff points. Are they going to run up or are they going to run into the river? If they run up, we need to look at cutting them off, making a break point. So let's say that this green X is Leo, right? She's running all the way here, hugging the wall. This O is going to be Caitlyn. She runs up. Your job as support and or AD with CC or jungler or whatever is find that intersection point, right? That intersection point is that giant green mess. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And again, if any concepts here don't truly make any sense or just kind of the breakdowns are a little bit confusing, feel free to message you. Included in this VOD review and your op.gg reviews is a full-on Q&A session. All right, so we turn our attention on the actual drag. As Kalista, always make sure that we're communicating with our jungler in terms of whether or not he wants us to rend. This is such a good fight for us. We absolutely can go in. I don't think Kalista should have been back and forth as often as she did. Great Q there. You win this. If we just chased the Caitlyn, it would have been fine. Aurora's 1 HP and we knew that. I think this might just be a call off. Quay has no mana and we're worried about waves, but wave mid would have been fine as long as we killed Aurora. But it's okay. That was a good fight. Now my Kalista's 3-0. Let's look for Zerkers here on this buy. So the reason why you want Zerkers is because your passive actually scales off of it and you're going to be basically negating, you know, that huge spike. So rather than the 15% attack speed, you could go for the 45, unless I'm blanking here and they change it down to 35, 45% increase on the Zerkers. Plus it gives you a little bit more movement speed to actually dodge out the Lux. Right now you're just going to be battling them with about 15%, which is all right, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, 45, I'd rather take 45 than 15 for sure. More Ren stacks on any type of champion is always the best for Kalista. Alright, we're going to speed it up here. We're trying to slow push this. Nice. Only because we understand that Caitlyn just reset. Great use of the W there. Now we need to shove this, right? Because we do not want Lux just to delete the wave, and we understand that Caitlyn has the range here and the potential to delete it. Leo needs to walk up in front line. Unfortunately, not able to land that E, but we get the nice little flash as a response. We accidentally walk back into the Lux E, but it's still fine. Using that Ren just to trade. I would also suggest here, I understand that you're probably going to go Rage Blade here. I would honestly have suggested Bork here in this game, at least early. Bork is always great on Kalista or any other type of attack speed champion that can build it. Against like these very like eager and threatening bot lanes. So here you have a poke lane, right? You have the Caitlyn, the Lux, who are just going to be hitting you from ways away. I really think that like if you take the Bork here and get yourself a Vamp Scepter, you have a lot more sustainability, right? And then that way you're not super reliant on your positioning and your barrier being up. Because right now we're just kind of giving up gold here and there to her first strike, and we're having waves shoved in, unfortunately. That's a very unfortunate flash. We flash just to get into range. We're walking in a straight line, and that unfortunately will be a death. We got to be cautious about where we are fighting. Are we overextending where we cannot actually catch, or are we actually going for meaningful plays, right? Again, the movement speed there would not have done much, but that's a communicational breakdown, right? Where Leo's all the way over here and you're tending to wave. You flash up to this O point, and even then you need to queue forward. By the time you walk and queue forward, you are unfortunately on a little trap in the ground. And it's very awkward because like there's no safety for you. Your barrier, even though you sprung it, you're still going to get DPS'd by the Lux if she wants to proc her passive. Communicational. If there's a wave underneath the tower, we either need to both say screw the wave, or we are both going for the play. We're just shoving, we're just shoving. Let's take a look at when Dragon's up. Dragon's up in a minute at this point. We're holding wave. Again, our waves are going to be returning back to neutral. We understand that they're going for some vision here. This is a fine fight. Nice little engage there. Caitlyn, or Kalista's positioning is really well played here. Beautiful collapse. Unfortunately, we go a little too far forward. Leona should have been the one engaging and frontlining, but it is Kalista, unfortunately, who does want a little bit more. Again, that's a communicational breakdown where you're just not on the same position. Still good play regardless. I think that was super over eager. I think you actually mentioned it in your Discord message, but that was absolutely a force, right? Especially into like a champion with a power spike to them. We just really don't need to be forcing those trades. Power spikes can come in the form of many things, right? Can come in the form of wave increase, CS increase, level increase. So as earlier as I was alluding, Leo's looking for level 2. Her power spike here is not only is she a level above you, but she also does have a full-on item here, whereas you have components, right? We just gotta kind of be cautious of this. And actually, it does look like you are actually gonna go for the Bork here. You have way more value going for the Vamp Scepter early than you do for the pickaxe, for all the reasons I listed earlier, right? The lifesteal, the sustain in the wave, a lot's going on here. Nice little kill on Callista. Beautiful dodge. Well played. Well played. Beautifully spaced. Well played. I totally understand this back timer. This is fine. You have no idea where Vi is. Nice. Well played fight. Let's throw it down here. We are like super eager to fight consistently. I think now it's because we're calling out our own power spike, but the issue here and the issue with Lux roaming here is that like if we are not able to at least pin her down or shove in the waves, then this is not advantageous for us at all. And this is actually a positive for the Lux because she has so much tempo on the map. Again, remember, tempo is an advantage. We can spin a negative into a positive advantage. When she's dead, she's coming out of base with the advantage. What's the advantage there? No one exactly knows if she's going to go bot, top, mid, or assist with jungle straight out of her reset, right? And so here, she's playing her advantage in the jungle. She just warded out your Warwick all the way on his top side. So our advantage here is that we have the numbers advantage. We have 2 for 1. I think that, again, this is a communicational breakdown. I think that if Leo wants to go this far, we need to either call we are committing on the Caitlyn, despite us having the Lux R in our face, or we are simply just playing for wave and taking what we can get, right? We got the barrier, and maybe we just call it a day and say, that's enough. Beautiful stun. Again, this awkward flash into start. We do need to kind of save our flashes just for the reserve plays from like the Vi engages, the Lux Qs. I think that we just need to be parallel to one another. That way, if Leo does go forward, it's not just kind of a worrisome, endeavor. Here she's trying to pull the wave, but she's not able to. She actually does end up getting that stun. So that absolutely ruins your timer here. And she's going to try stopping it again, unfortunately. When we're backing, always go for the safer back. I know that, there's a simple back that buys you a lot of time, but safer backs, always key, always will reduce the amount of times that you are dying. Also, speaking about backs, right, we have timers. Backs equals timers. Are we playing for tempo here or not, right? Our tempo here is to back up the Warwick, so let's check this out. As we go to assist, actually it wasn't even Warwick, as we go to assist Tway, we are giving over bot tier 1. We could have got tier 1 top here. Unfortunately, we are not able to. Callista's going to be able just to kite this around. Hopefully, at least. Should be the case. And there we go. Leo dies. It's a 1 for 1. And now we are going 1v2 here by the looks of it. And remember, we had no flash from that previous fight. So now this becomes very messy. Unfortunately, just gets collected there. But the auto from Hui should do it. There we go. In League, I like to think of deaths as meaningful deaths, right? There's meaningful deaths and then there's wasted deaths. You've probably heard this term before from streamers such as Boss or in pro play, or good death, a bad death, negative gaming, positive gaming, right? It has to do with tempo, but it also has to deal with like, what are we trading, right? Are we sacrificing the tower and the extra wave bot for 1 kill? 1 kill equals 400 gold, right? Why are we doing that when now Caitlyn has the advantage already from CS and kills? We are giving her extra gold on top of that, just trying to force out something. The second thing is for that 1 kill, we expended flash, a 5-minute timer in the early game, right? 5 minutes could mean the difference between 2 drags or grub play, or as we just saw, life or death. We don't really need to expend flash in that circumstance because if unless we are shoving in the wave bot, there's really no point to be flashing because we are using the flash. She dies, we get a little bit of gold, but then the wave just crashes. Like the wave does not even fully crash. We're allowing Lux to get the XP, and it's not split XP. It's actually advantageous for Lux because she's getting solo XP. So just be mindful, like what are we actually giving up for some of these plays? Let's speed this one up. Callista's going to be running mid here. Just collecting this wave yet again. This game is a great Terminus game. It's also a great Runeins or Wits game. Again, we are really gung-ho on trying to go for Caitlyn. Play around the vision. Love the level 9 blue ward. That's pretty good. Beautiful. Shove in the wave if we do not have priority for Dragon. Love this play. This is correct. Remember, if we want to be there first, we need to be there 40 to 120 before the actual objective spawns, whether that's grub take or dragon take. We also need waves pushing or an advantageous position. An advantage could come in the form of a kill, summoner spell, ult that we've just gotten from them. Here our team goes in. Great follow-up from the Callista. But now look at this. Who is going to be protecting mid wave? We actually can't walk here very safely, and we're just getting poked out. And Aurora's on the flank. Callista went to go catch side lane. And this is a game where, you know, the Callista has all the gold in the game, right? If you have all the gold and your team is forcing like this, there's two scenarios. You either need to call off the team and just say, play safe, please, I'm farming, right? Or they need to have you in the fight. I think that having Jace continue to split, especially having the TP up, is very valuable. And I think that this was just kind of a freebie for you. Whereas like now that you're here in these fights, now they actually have, you know, the go button. You are all their gold so far on this team. You're holding at least a hefty sum of it. You know, you're worth 9,100, about maybe 2,000 to 3,000 above everyone else here. You're still down compared to Caitlyn, but that's obviously because she's fighting with her team. She has 13 kill participation, whereas you also have 13. But yours is a lot more meaningful because they have one extra on you. So that means that there's only 4 kills in this entire game that have happened elsewhere. This is fine. This is perfectly good to do. We're not trying to force anything bot. Just stay in the mid lane. This is kind of a notion of we're trying to collapse and we're not doing the proper collapse. Again, the communication. We get collected because it is the lethality first strike. Lux does not hit anything, but that does not even matter. You guys just absolutely melt the Caitlyn and the Vi. Looks like Aurora just turns off her PC for a second. It's a little bit of a pause there. But again, I think it just has to do with the positioning. Like, it's just the positioning is very key, especially into like a Lux who's going to be looking to catch you off guard with the E's, with the Q's, and to stuns. There, they catch you off by just one bad roam. If you are going for a roam and you do not have an assisted like support, quote unquote, jungle or actual support, you need to really be cautious in using your wards correctly. In that circumstance, you're assuming that like no one has vision behind the dragon pit, and that, you know, that's very tricky to do because we have no shove. Right? Another thing too, remember how I talked earlier about wave states and jungle tempo lanes? Let's talk about vision for a second. Right? So, when we start the game, and again, this is not going to be to scale, apologies, this is kind of going to be skewed here. When we start the game, actually, you know what? Let me put over the entire map, that way it's a little bit easier to see. All right. So, our vision lines pretty much are like that on red side, okay? Might be a straighter line than this, obviously, but for the most part, that's red side. That's neutral, meaning anyone's control. And that skewed line is ours, okay? Vision lines dictate that tower to tower, that is the sector of vision that we have control of. Do we have control of Tri? Yes, because it's closer to blue than it is to red. Do they have control of their Tri? Yes, because again, it's closer to red than it is to the yellow. Than the blue. The reason why, at this point, your vision line becomes reduced is because we do not have control of top lane. The reason why neutral, as well, is kind of a who's who bargain is because depending on the wave states, remember those wave states, depending on who has the wave state advantage, we actually can dictate exactly how much pressure we're exuding. If we are shoving in, then we have control of neutral. If they're shoving in, they have control of neutral. That's why we always had these patty cake instances on like bot Pixel, where we are placing a ward here and there, and they clear it out, we clear it out, yada, 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 yada. If you want that permanent ward there, you need to gain control of these vision sectors. Now, Crimson, I have a question. What happens where we have a circumstance where our towers die? Right? Let's see what happens when our towers die. How does that actually change our vision line? Right? Let's take this current instance, mid lane, bot tier 2, top tier 2. Our vision line now becomes very skewed. Right? Their vision line, for the most part, is kind of skewed as well, but it just depends on where their waves are. So because Aurora's shoving wave, it temporarily is back to their regular. Without their wave shoving, if we are shoving their waves, that is literally their vision line. Okay, meaning that we can also walk freely in these coordinated sectors of the jungle. When we start the game, our jungle is pretty much safe to walk through for the most part. Right? Invades happen, but naturally from a game 3 perspective, it is totally okay. But the issue here is that neutral now changes. So neutral changes to where our tower actually went down. So neutral here becomes that, right? Why is neutral not this? Neutral is not this, the second line here, because they have wave shove. Okay, and they're the ones who are actually winning on this advantageous position. Our mid tower is actually about to fall, so they will gain neutral. What happens if mid tower falls and it's tier 2s? Okay. Let's look at our vision. Remember that half circle truly becomes an even smaller circle. And now the new neutral is going to be our tier 1s. Where does their red now go? Where does their vision line start? The initial neutral. Why does it become the initial neutral? Because they have so much pressure on the map that we need to walk way past our waves and into the jungle blindly for the most part, and to actually coordinate a vision control sector, to actually control vision lines, protect our vision, go for picks with vision on in key, look at where they're rotating for objectives, vision control on objectives, entrances on objectives, exits, yada, 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 yada. Everything that comes associated with vision, right? So it actually changes out to that. Right here in this circumstance, the reason why I wanted to point this out is because we are walking down when they've already taken our tier 1. Do we have the vision line to do that? Because again, remember, our vision line, technically speaking, is tower to tower. No, we don't, right? Because the old vision line gets absorbed into that tier 1. So it looks something like that. That's the neutral. And we can't walk on neutral if they have the advantage on us. So just be very, very wary of where actually we're positioning. I know that sounds a little bit confusing. And again, just to reiterate, I'm always available for extra sessions or just a Q&A if you need any assistance with anything that we talk over here. But yeah, that's just kind of the basics of like vision control lines. And that's why now we are playing very controlled, because we have no idea where they are, especially towards mid lane, because this is kind of the last bastion of defense that we truly have. Here they shove, and now our vision line gets neutered here. This is perfectly great, though. This is a great engage. I don't think we need to be that fast on the Kalista R. The Kalista R traditionally is used either for follow-up CC, which we did not need there since Caitlyn rather has already used the flash. I just think like you just hold it for saving your support. Right? Saving your support or re-engaging in a fight or getting a nice flank for Leo. That basically also would help you in getting the pick on Lux, because now Lux has no way of stunning or CCing the Leo immediate, whereas Leo can just go forward and then just E. This is an okay push. I think because you have no wave here, it's very tricky. This is still a good little dive here. Perfect dive on the Kalista. Take your win and back. Nice. Let's go back to following Kalista here. We're just answering waves. We go the Terminus and the Rage Blade. Next item here that we can do, obviously, is going to be probably the Bloodthirster or the Shield Bow. great fight yet again, and I think now at this point it's just a combination of great fights paired in with this current Baron that we have, and we can absolutely do some damage to this base. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to kind of speed through this and let's see if anything else happens. I think the early game for the most part is very choppy from you, Beast, and your support in this game. I think also that position was a little bad, but I think it also comes down to like how we are talking. Are we talking about going in level 2? Are we talking about who our priority is to kill in lane? Are we talking about how we're actually going to do that? Are we fighting through each wave, or are we actually going to be looking for wave first and then fight? And again, now you're just throwing your wallets at them. And we're just securing every single objective. Nice. I don't think much happens here. Just going to skip towards the end here. Always time it with Callista Rend. Okay. Looks like there was an agreement here that there was going to be an FF. And looks like we actually FF'd. Interesting. Let's just see, sorry. Okay, so technically speaking, I'm going to assume that that would have been a win for us then. A little bit of an odd way to close out that game, but regardless. Let's actually get Havoc now, because I think that first game was with some absolute random. So let's hope to get Havoc on the second one. And does not look like Havoc's here. Interesting. I'm not going to try and going through the fundamentals again too much. There will definitely be some nitpicks like that first game. But I think for the most part, we got a lot of what we wanted to talk about out of the way in terms of the fundamentals of the game, right? Because League at a basic point, whether you were Iron, Bronze, Gold, Silver, Emerald, Plat, Master, Challenger, GM, whatever it may be that League decides to release in the future, it's always fundamentals, and fundamentals are the name of the game. So, I love this 5-point. The reason why this 5-point definitely could have been better is why? It's because we're using our laners' wards, right? These huge resources for us, and we're not even getting that much like information out of this. What information are we supplementing from these 2 wards that we otherwise ourselves could not get by just standing here, right? What threat exactly do they have of an invade? Is it just a Mumu queue? A Mumu needs to walk directly into us, and even then we have paths to exit in multiple instances of this area. Right? Instead, and again, this is not mid laner's VOD review by any means, but instead, 105, mid should always be dropping a pink ward, or sorry, a yellow ward on either of their raptors. Are you versus a Lilia and a Kayn? Yes, drop a ward on your raptors or their raptors depending on your jungle's comfortability. Are you looking to track the jungler and it's not one of those 2 champions I just listed? Yes, then drop a ward always on their raptors. Why are we dropping it on the raptor? League is a game of tracking the jungler. If they take raptors move up, we know that they're going into their top side. They're going into their blue side. If they take raptors move down, we know that they're going for gank in multiple directions. Right? And that's huge for information. Communication is information. Information is power. And power is definitely strength in this game that leads you in for wins. Right? And here, our 2 laners don't basically have it. Now we are super reliant on TK basically just for the only vision. Which is super tricky because we are into a ganking jungler, so we don't really have that, you know, safety blanket necessarily of trying to go for that. It's pretty dangerous now for us to actually be looking for all-ins here. So, also, against a Twitch lane, Twitch and Samira, those 2 champions specifically, always have your support going exhaust. Why do we go exhaust versus Twitch Samira? It's because their ultimates provide so much burst damage and attack speed. If we can get the exhaust down, then they pretty much do 0 damage. It's actually, there's a one trick named Rat IRL. It's one of his biggest pet peeves is when the enemy support has exhaust. He typically always will go cleanse just as a precaution in that event, because it's really, really difficult for the Twitch actually to play this lane against the Xayah as well if he's hardly doing any damage to begin with. Less damage on Twitch, less damage on his stacks. Our Jax is 1v9 in the top lane, gets that nice little first blood, and now we are looking just to shove this in. Again, level 2, TK should not be behind Zai here. TK can walk up and then go for those pokes. Poke here from TK should be Grasp, not Aftershock. Grasp makes more sense than Aftershock. Are you actually going to be going in, or are you actually going to be looking to protect? If you want to protect, if you want to sustain, if you want to live, Guardian and or Grasp work a lot better. Guardian if you're going to be frontlining right next to the Xayah. Grasp if you want to frontline and just kind of go to town and proc your passive on Twitch and Lulu or these other melees that had to walk into you, which is what I advise. And Aftershock would only proc if you're Wing in and getting the knockups. Aftershock, for the most part, is just kind of a wasted rune here because she also has polymorph. So even when you're Wing in, she can polymorph. And by the time Aftershock is done, you're not really getting a lot of those bonuses anyways because she's just negating it more or less. This is very awkward to be holding a wave like this versus a Twitch. Reason why is because Twitch at this point can go Q and just kind of go all the way around you, go for a flank or play force jungle if you do not already know where their jungle is. He as well, like when the tower is hitting it, he actually has a really bad time actually taking minions in a very, very slow paced because he's so reliant on like these really bad and low damage autos to start. That's why a lot of Twitches will actually start Q. It's because they're looking for the attack speed to kind of make up for that really piss poor auto attack. And here we have level 3. This should be Xayah's spike here, the Q, the W, and the E. So if we can just like walk up and tether this wave, we can absolutely look for some poke. Here we have the Xayah back. I'm not going to talk too much about the matchups because I'm not quite sure the extent of your draft by any means. But remember the vision line. This is good, but they still have priority to clear this, right? Unfortunately, we didn't have that nice little sweeper, the revealing ward there, and so we actually are going to be missing out on this huge information that now they know exactly where Rek'Sai is. Multiple ways of knowing where Rek'Sai is. And because they know where Rek'Sai is, Darius can then just be enabled here in the top side. And that's his go button here. If we want to be making a play... Nice. I was about to say, if we want to be making a play, we need to be looking at a vision. This is great. As you kind of kite away as Xayah, I understand you're trying to kite to be able to drop his autos here and there. But if you were kiting away, you're basically missing the pullback from feathers or the Q stacking. And here you have pullback in like 2 seconds. You also move directly past the TK. I think you just kill him anyways here. Nice. But regardless, the point still stands. You're actually pathing away from your safety net. Right, TK can get a couple autos there, and instead he's actually relying on the Q and then the auto. This is a perfect time to push here. We have time to push because we had just killed him and the Twitch is on reset. We can go for a little bit more here. I like the Cull first buy here. I think Cull is a great choice, but I as well would have liked actually rather going for the dagger. That way, even if she does EU, you can at least make up for that movement speed by just hitting him with multiple attacks. This is really tricky to do as your jungle support because you have no AD and because you don't have mid or bot priority right now. Here that you're back in lane and TP did come down for Ahri, you do have priority. But by the time you like decide as a team to kind of go for this, your priority here is dead. And unfortunately, TK just gets absolutely chunked here. So now in this circumstance, your support is not here. They have their support and AD. What do? You want to freeze it on that C line because they have a high potential of getting ganked. Or, on the other circumstance, they have a high potential of having the TK gank and engage. Plus, there's low threat of you actually getting dove, because remember, it goes the opposite way. They actually can't dive you here unless they want to expend and use a flash or a summoner spell, which you already know that they have nothing of. This is fine, just let it slowly shove. I like this. We already have the advantage. We just need to let them come into us. We don't really need to look for these plays. We just need to just keep pushing our lead here. We have a nice little small lead. We just need to grow it now in terms of CS because what is Lulu actually going to be able to do? Pretty much nothing because there's always the threat of the TKW in. And Twitch can never go Q, right? Because now, if he does go Q close enough to your tower, it's just very, very messy for him. This is still a fine fight. Beautiful R there just to execute him. Now you hard shove this because he's dead. Crash this, you can go for plate here, use W to speed up, gives you attack speed. Yeah, I think you absolutely could have got that plate for yourself if you used the W. Remember, that's basically 35 extra attack speed that we're just sitting on. It's a little bit before this. W's up, W's up, W's up. And there, 35 extra attack speed just kind of wasted. And we finally use it on the wave. It does proc on towers, and it does also affect Rakan. So if you are paired with a Rakan, he as well does get that 35%. And there, look at what just happened, by the way. So we did that strong push, right? We had so much tempo, right? But we tempo trapped ourselves. I mentioned tempo states. I mentioned action pathways. What the heck is a tempo trap? When we have an advantage and we push the advantage for the sake of pushing the advantage, but don't get anything out of it. And it's actually a negative for us when it should be a positive. How is this a negative that they have 4 plates now and we still have 5? We didn't get the gold, right? We were not in the vicinity. Our minions killed it. And so that huge push basically equated to nothing. We didn't get that extra 150 from the plating. And I'm sure that 150 would have went a very long way for the Xayah. Now, I had mentioned it to another team I coach, but there's also an unholy trinity of ADs. I'm sorry, but this video is going to be jam-packed. Hopefully, it's great for your value, though. So, there's the unholy trinity of ADs. We have... Let me lower this. We have the caster AD. Who is a caster AD? It's Jhin. Right? Jhin. I messed that up so bad. Should be Ezreal. Ezreal. MF. Lethality. Varus lethality. Corki. Okay. Then, second tier, we have hybrids. It's really hard to actually rate on this pen app. What exactly is a hybrid AD? We'll get into that in a second. We have casters, attack speed. Okay, and this is going to be everything else. So a caster would also be Lucian here. A attack speed is going to be like something like a Jinx, a Caitlyn, a Jinx, a Caitlyn are kind of the purest forms. MF, Varus, attack speed and on hit. Any on hit build is going to be attack speed. Kog'Maw would also be attack speed. I'm just blanking on a couple names. Twitch is an attack speed. Vayne is an attack speed. Xayah is a hybrid. Kate Tristana is a hybrid. These are champions that require abilities weaving in and out. To actually be manageable. The reason, sorry, I miscorrectly said that Caitlyn is attack speed. She's actually hybrid because she scales off of her abilities, right? Her abilities are intertwined with the bulk of her damage. So her abilities are not amplifying her attack speed. It's rather amplifying her caster abilities. And she's just there as a powerhouse, stacking still Berserker and stuff. That's why we're seeing less Berserkers and just one like Zeal item here and there. She's not super reliant, but she does have a build path. So going back to this unholy trinity, right? Attack speed will always get beat by attack speed. Attack speed also dies to hybrid. Okay? Hybrid will die to hybrid. Hybrid will die to caster. Or sorry, hybrid will kill caster. It's like that. Caster kills attack speed. Attack speed typically does not kill caster. Right? Unless it's like a very fed game. And again, take this in strides. This isn't a vacuum. Right? A Kog'Maw should not be killing an Ezreal. Because if the Ezreal in a vacuum has max build versus the Kog'Maw, Ezreal technically speaking can proc because he has the range advantage. Right? And even past that, let's say if Kog'Maw is pressing W with the range, then we are looking at, where are we playing our Qs? Are we landing our Ws? Are we landing our Qs? Are we landing our E's? We are less reliant on just attack speed padding buffs, whereas we are relying on like hitting skill shots, things like that. So if Twitch is going attack speed, we need to be matching his attack speed. How do we do that on a hybrid champ just like Xayah, who has half and half a caster, half attack speed? We do that by going Zerkers. I think you needed to go Zerkers. That was a very long-winded way of me just saying that, again, that 45%, we need that 45% here. because he's going to be scaling into attack speed primarily, and so you're going to be getting hit by pellets, and instead you could be just absolutely decimating him right now with a lot of extra attacks. And the extra attacks go a long way too, because you're able to throw out more feathers that way. This is fine. This is fine in a vacuum. Remember, if we want to go for an engage, we can't do so if our entire bottom side is only the try. We have an advantage in this lane. We should be looking at getting pixel advantage as well. TK's great health, nice little kiting back. Kog'Maw actually flashes forward, or sorry, not Cog rather. Amumu goes forward a little bit. We turn it around, but again, if we want to go for plays like that, we need to be aware of where everyone actually is. In the interest of time, I'm going to speed this up. Beautiful shove into drag here, correct. Just answering waves as they kind of bounce neutral. If we are in an advantage, we can either do this, we can let them shove into us and then force them to walk, meaning that, you know, the threat of them getting ganked is very high. Or we can just keep shoving these waves underneath. That way he's kind of a quote unquote slave to the wave. So he needs to constantly look at waves, and, you know, he has nowhere to go pretty much, because if he's not able to touch the wave, then he's just sacrificing gold and losing even more than he currently is. This is great to zone. I think that if you have an advantage like the one that you have currently, you just need to kind of stretch that out. So this is perfect. Nice, we're finally hitting tower. At this point, TK is roaming, so what you're doing here is very, very correct. Letting him just kind of catch the wave here and just shoving constantly into him, because they don't have the Lulu. There's no safety net for him, right? It's just you and him, and for the most part, you are winning this trade. Nice little ER buy there will give us a lot more agency. Now we actually get mana and our cooldowns back. Beautiful, recognizing that we actually have the vision line here. We go for a collapse though. Still fine. Majority of the gold is on us, remember that. This is still fine. You do win versus the Amumu in that 1v1, but I understand backing up here because of the Twitch and the Lulu threat. You should be out at this point. You get more by staying bot instead of roaming there. I think that you just kind of greed it out for the help. I think because they're putting so much aggression towards mid lane, that puts a lot of less focus on you, right? The only reason why Twitch was able to move there and thus clean up and get these fights back is because mainly you allowed him to. When you run, he understands too, like, oh shoot, I need to also run adjacent to where this Xayah is moving. Right here's where you leave. And you're seen on vision right now, and immediately as you're seen on vision, Lulu and Twitch say forget that wave. It's no longer like our business, and they just go for the advantage. That's his second kill, and this is his third kill. So that like nice little grace period that you had bought with all these kills basically gets ruined, and your wave now is in a very awkward position because you're like really having to reset, and he can just kind of shove in. Granted, he's not really doing that. I think he actually just opted in to back here. Yuntil, interesting buy. This should not be answered by the Xayah. I think you just did that as the sake of you coming out of base. I think you just need to go bot here. You're not really prepped to verse the Riven. You are more so prepped to verse the Twitch. We're just losing so much tempo here by sending our most fed member mid. And here, they can collapse on you. That's exactly what they're doing. They just dive you, and Twitch has a free farm lane. He's coming back into CS. And they assist with another kill. And they might look for a little bit more as well. It's just the greed, I think. I think that you just needed to just go bot. You call Ahri off, and here you are answering this wave after this wave. Yeah, as long as you see Twitch, just answer him constantly. You can't be leaving your laner out for the dust until you get first tower. Shove this wave again. Yep, nice shove, and then we can look. Perfect. Nope, this should just be shove into look. There, they're all here. Now you can fight. You have your numbers. At this point, they only have the set. Or sorry, the Amumu R. Jax ults in. This should be Xayah mass R when everyone was just kind of stunned together. Instead of this, Xayah's playing out. You just need to play up. You're playing a little too scared right now. And unfortunately, because of that back and forth and the awkward positioning from your tanks to go chase, I think you just die here. Yeah, very unfortunate. Team does clean up. Nice. Free Herald. Remember, it's all about extending the lead, right? Is it worth if I die here? Is it? Because we didn't get mid, we did not get bot. If you had just stayed in one of these lanes, then you absolutely could have just pushed. And you get first tower. And potentially grubs. Alright, looks like you finally do get tower here somewhere mid. Nice. Not running for that fight. Perfect. See, that's the strength though of like having a fed AD. We just got to use that agency. And again, calling out if we're actually going to be taking E and coordinating it with the smite for our jungler, if possible at least. Beautiful. You are a wave clearing machine. You at this point just need to get wave clear. At this point, you're getting your items just to keep bouncing waves. You don't really need to force these fights, especially if they have the go button. Right, their go button is Amumu this game. Yours is looking for picks with Ahri Charm or Jax. This is really kind of weird from the Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai unfortunately just gives over another kill there to Twitch. So now, you still should be ahead of some gold, but it's very slim, right? 600 gold advantage. The reason being for your CS advantage, you're actually down a kill right now. And unfortunately, you actually just died as we were looking at that as well. Nice. This should be clean up for Rek'Sai. Oh, actually it is not, because unfortunately the Avengers did show up there. This is perfect. Just answer the Twitch. This is good. But remember how I was mentioning, like, is it worth to actually stay or go for the fight? Twitch chooses to go for the tower, and now he just gets free back. And let's check the gold. He's only now down 300, whereas at one time you were up like 3,000. This is perfectly fine. Don't let anyone ever discourage you from taking jungle if you're ahead. This is really fine. Just get any type of advantage as possible. We didn't really talk about it last game, but I think that might also be kind of contributing to those kind of below par CS per average scores that we had seen on your OP. I think that more than often you're looking to like roam for these fights, whereas you have no roam timer, right? Your roam timers are going to be when the waves are shoved in or if you are crashing, not if you are getting shoved in on or if you are like partially shoving but they're still there in the lane awkwardly. Like you need to make an executive decision, like are we full committing on it or not? I'm going to speed this one up because we're nearing the end here. Again, it's just a matter of fundamentals, right? Looks like we got that dragon. I'm going to skip ahead to this final fight. Let's check this out. Let's see how it starts. TK goes in. Nice little combo from Rek'Sai. Amumu flashes forward. Don't know if necessarily you needed to ult there. You definitely could have just repositioned with your R. Remember, your ult as Xayah is your biggest resource here available. This is still fine. Riven flashes forward and you're just free hitting. Oh. Oh, unfortunate actually. It looks like because... Oh, you had flash up the entire time. Yeah. I honestly thought that this was winnable from you guys. As long as you just flash E, I think you just kill her. But you cannot allow her to come into your range like that. Just flash E next time. Oh, do you guys lose this game, unfortunately? It looks like actually you guys threw this game. Oh, that'd be rather unfortunate. Is it just one bad fight here that I'm guessing? That looks okay. I mean, again, if we want to go for these picks, we need really nice vision control. And we can't be like forcing if they have the pieces to engage because Amumu flashes back when Rek'Sai is still forward. It's just a means of like, how actually are we going to get to everyone? And again, we're doing the same thing. We're the ones who are going in. We're like, they have the tools and we go in and then we just get decimated. Like here, like, why are we going in on the Amumu? There, we miss our engage and it's Rek'Sai and TK there. They stun us R, and by the time you also come here, your R is pretty much useless because no front line and you're just dead. We need to all walk in together at the same time and not look for picks. Instead, we also had like Jax on a split push. And I think that's actually game. I think that was the... Yeah, and that is super unfortunate. Definitely think this was a game that you guys should have won. In my eyes, this is a 1-1 scrim block. But unfortunately, that is the end of the scrim block. I was told to briefly look over this. again, reach out to me if you actually wanted me to look at this in depth, but I was told that this is a kind of a modified weirder lane, so not necessarily look into this too in depth in terms of matchups, but this is going to be actually your first duo game at least today with Havoc. All right, so we're starting the game off. We are Kai'Sa, Thresh into the Pantheon Karthus. If we are into this lane, right? If we are into a regular lane such as Karthus, Ziggs, Cass, what advantage do we have versus them? It's the same advantage we would have against a Jhin. The advantage being that they need to land their abilities in order to actually kill CS. They need to really dig deep on their mana reserves and their mana pool. Okay, why is it good to shove in versus a Karthus and a Ziggs? Because they don't have that added burst, and plus their abilities, they need to specifically time it so that they are weaving in and out. A melee minion will take 2 hits, or sorry, will take 1.5 hits of tower. A caster will take 2. Okay, we need to make sure that we are able to weave in our autos in between those in order to last hit. Here, we are not doing that, right? We are allowing Karthus basically to free farm. We were there to start and touch the wave, but now we're just getting zoned. And again, remember that same metric I mentioned earlier for the Lux. If he is poking out, we are doing a bad job. We need to shove in so that he only has the capabilities of using his mana under the tower. This is really weird. Thresh should not be holding parallel in this bush. There's no reason for you to be over here. What you instead need to be doing is walking into the wave, or at least looking for picks. At most, what do they have here to start? W and Q? You're just looking just to deny their level 2, and you already have a stack. If you can get level 2 against this lane, this is your lane to win, even with them having exhaust. Barrier did not need to come out that early. There was absolutely no threat of death here. Barrier can come out on the level 2 all-in. He is playing for his level 2 all-in. That is what champion Pantheon is. Here, we're 1 minion off of level 2. Just hit level 2 here. We didn't get it fast enough. And actually, we're not level 2 here. 1 more minion, we would have done it. Flash auto. Just auto the minion. That's our level 2, and there you go. Definitely think this level 2v2 could have been a lot quicker and a lot faster. We're looking to fight level 1 for some reason, even though we're the ones who were caught out position and we had expended resources. I think that you just take the safe gamble and just go for the level 2 power spike that the Kai'Sa does have. But even past that, if you did want to go for the level 1, communication is key. Tell your Thresh, walk up. Nice little crash. Oh, it didn't crash actually. Now you're holding a freeze here versus them. This is really tricky too, because now he's going to just allow you to slow push this. Yep. And so now, because remember how we talked about that C line, Thresh actually can't walk up all the way to C, so now he needs to allow this wave to bounce, because now he can finally walk up. This is still fine. We understand that we have the flash advantage here. We unfortunately do miss out on that hook, but still should be fine regardless. We can still look for a pick. They have no sums. Remember that exhaust is going to be the majority of the bulk of damage source from this Karthus Panth lane. If you are exhausted, you're going to deal less damage. You're slower, meaning that both of them can land their abilities a lot more accurately on you. A single target for Karthus Q gets dealt an extra 35% damage. That's what Karthuses try their best not to hit multiple minions. It's because their Q is really strong on single targets. And that's why, like, if you're noticing his Qs, he's for the most part trying his best just to land one at a time. This is a great opportunity to flash E-Flay Q someone into the tower if you just hold them still. Again, neither of these champions are super mobile, so this is a complete lane that's dictated by you. That was a fine pull. We don't have minion wave advantage, so obviously, you know, you're kind of fearing that you're going to die if you take that. Looks like we're going for potentially a Kraken start. Kraken is a pretty good start here. It could also be Storm, or not Storm Racer, sorry, Static Shiv. Static Shiv would be great here because you basically are forcing him that, like, even if he shoves in the wave here and there, he basically will never have any strong push because you're just deleting the wave and bouncing it out again to that B neutral line. And that's exactly what we want, or at least pushing towards their C line. Remember, this is a great example. The potential for gank here is low from Nocturne. He understands that, and he moves back. Now it's a mid potential to gank. We need to be popping biscuits here for some mana if we want to be playing aggro here. That hook could have been easily a flay if we had popped a biscuit, but we're just holding on to them. Remember, people are using these biscuits. Or sorry, they removed mana. Sorry, that's my bad. Misinformation. Disregard that last point. See, even coaches make mistakes sometimes. But that's the beauty of doing it live, right? All right, this is a little off because when we're shoving in, right, we are shoving in with the intent that they need to answer. Okay, we are not shoving in with the intent that we are basically gifting them the CS that like they had missed before when they had reset. And here we're pretty much doing that, right? If we want to shove and then back, great, that's exactly what we need to do. But we can't have someone catch the wave and then potentially put us in a weird spot. Because again, same dichotomy as Lux, as I had mentioned earlier, as Xerath, whoever you are playing that is a far-ranged poke champion, they're looking to poke you out. And Karthus does not even need to walk back into, into this open range here. He just needs to walk back into the safety of his tower if things go bad. Here it's even worse for you because you are basically forced to like walk into his Q range actually to hit and destroy this minion wave. If these are better opponents, right? I believe this is a solo queue game. They're going to be looking to hold this wave. And then basically your play lane is done because if Thresh hooks you, he's hooking you directly into your tower. And he can actually get stunned and he can actually die because there's a huge threat of him tanking. There's a huge threat of them getting so much damage on you. That's Karthus R. That is a huge tempo swing in your favor. We have advantage here. Thresh actually opts in to go mid here, which is still fine. But because that mid move did kind of cost you a little bit of time here, they are going to be able to shove really hard. And remember that 20 CS lead that you had? So basically, when you shoved in, he made back the bulk of it. And here and there, you're getting a little bit of the scraps, but you're not going to go back to that 20 count. And the worst part about it is that like Thresh is on the lane, on the map, but Pantheon has 6, and Pantheon 6 is very versatile in the form of like, even if he's mid here, Pantheon just needs to look mid and basically he's dead, as is the case right now. And Pantheon's like an absolute lane and map menace when he is AD. This is really tricky as well. We're constantly shoving here, even though we have no vision. That was like exactly kind of your timer to hold the wave and just let it freeze. That way you and Thresh are arriving to the same wave, protected by your tower at the same time. Whenever we're running through any pockets of high traffic vision areas, such as Tri, Pixel, any type of engage like walkthrough, so multiple ways entrance, right? Okay, we need, and this is like a really piss poor like tempo, I guess, like movement area. But if we are walking through any of these highly contested areas, we need to make sure that we are negating their vision control. And that's exactly how we're going to do it, right? By sweeping. So sweeping or putting a pink. Holding on to the sweeper there doesn't really do us any favors because we have no idea if they have even vision control with this, which they clearly did. Great kill on Pantheon there. Remember the neutral for vision. This is our time now to walk up to that pixel and gain vision and or sweep towards here. This is a beautiful freeze. We're recognizing that Karthus needs to walk up. Great flash there. That is absolutely worth as a flash. The reason why that's worth as a flash and the Caitlyn one and the Kalista one was not is because the Karthus dying here is massive because he actually is going to have a prolonged death timer. He not only has this timer but then the next, and it's really worth here because now you have a huge wave that you can shove in. If Pantheon wants to take solo XP, it's whatever. Actually, Pantheon's just full sending it into you actually. Okay, this is fine. Now you have no flash on Pantheon. And again, we are pinging this. Regardless if this is in a scrim set or not, communication is key. On your solo queue, you need to be pinging what resources they're using because unless you are playing in comms with these people, you are under the presumption that they are looking at your map constantly. They are not. I promise you, it does not matter what type of level players play at. Players are looking generally at whatever they want to look at. They're not looking actively around the map, especially like as jungle, top, mid, whatever you're basically not dealing with. Whatever you have no control over. This is a great engage, great flash hook there from Havoc. Nice. And now Kai'Sa, you just get the next wave, and Thresh should absolutely stay here, and you both bounce this wave. Thresh stays to make up for any lost XP. Also can kind of dump his stack there. This is perfect. This might be a little bit of an egregious take, only because Pantheon actually does have 6. He's not going to choose to use it, but definitely just play safe. Actually, he does use it. Yeah, I think you just shove in the wave and then back. That way you also have timer here, because otherwise now you're just sitting on 800 gold. 800 gold could have been a little bit of a component plus a pink ward here. Nice attempt there from the Thresh. Beautiful hook. Havoc's been really on point with this. Syndra now roaming down bot. Again, information is key. This is a great collapse here. You guys kill Pantheon. Nice. Beautiful. Perfect. I don't think Thresh should have went up, but I understand there was darkness. He could not see anything. This is your timer now to shove. No, you were fine here. You were fine still shoving because you still have this pocket of vision here. Nice. Perfect. Perfect. Well played so far. These games are a little bit dicey to start, but honestly, they're coming together. A huge sin here, though. You've committed the cardinal. Whenever we hit 9, we need blue ward. Farsights. I understand you probably want short range just to know exactly where Panth is or Karthus is at any given time. But Farsights are going to be better in the long run, because then that way we don't need to walk in these pockets of vision again with 0 vision control. This is a great flank on the Syndra. You're absolutely just super, super strong at this point. Nice. Nice. This is free mid tower for you, potentially. I just want to see if you're proccing your E whenever you're going for tower. You just procced on the wave, which was great. Again, just be wary of that Pantheon Q, or of the Pantheon R. We are not fully aware of it. Just gotta track how often is he using it. In the meantime, let's look at Havoc. Okay, Havoc, for instance, right? They took your tier 1. What exactly do you have? Remember how we mentioned the Lux having the tempo because she died, right? There's the uncertainty of where she went. This is your uncertainty right now in terms of where you could go. Do you want to go protect the failing tier 1 bot, which is already destined to die, or would you rather walk top? By the time you all the way came here, you at least could have walked in river and had pinged like kite down to me if there is a prolonged fight top, which there is. Plus, for objectives such as Herald here, we absolutely could have been in a position for Herald. Like, we still kill him regardless, but now you're just buying time and basically sacrificing your HP bar. Great though, we get the nice little 2v2. Unfortunately, we stay a little bit too long in the W and the Qs, and you were holding flash here, but still regardless, that's still a fine fight. I'm gonna slow this fight down. Let's see how this one starts. Alright. Akali tries to go a little too far forward, does end up getting absolutely deleted here. I think the fight's really lost if you guys are not there per se. And you get stunned here. Kai'Sa just run out. Ooh, I don't know about ulting back into 5 of them. Definitely think you just run out there, because now you're probably dead here. Yeah, and then they just ace you. Thankfully, it looks like you guys won this game. So nothing too dire, but definitely a fight that either we take when we're all there or we don't take at all. Because I want to see here, are we actually fighting with tempo? Remember, it's all about advantages. We do not even have Nocturne R up, nor do we not have Thresh R up. Okay, let's see this. Nocturne has R, Thresh has R. We don't have numbers here. If we are on Herald, our team's on Herald, we cannot be touching this mid wave. We need to go assist right now. By the time we walk in, Thresh goes for set. Definitely think if you just stood still, Kai'Sa, and just kept autoing Karthus, he's dead there. And then you can potentially look to R out. Hit potentially Syndra up. And yeah, that's very unfortunate. That does lead, unfortunately, into a tower here for them. Another one at that. Alawi wants a little bit more. She didn't learn her lesson. Great R there from Noct, but this fight is very, very split here. It's very awkward. Nocturne ends up dying there to the Pantheon support. And you just been shoving top. Okay, the issue with this too is that like whenever we're AD, we always want to be playing towards the side of the next objective. The next objective at this point is not Baron, nor are we trying to force for Otacon here. We should ideally be looking for bot Prio, because remember, drags are like 20 seconds away here, and we need to be playing for that 120 to 40 second mark to gain definitive kind of vision control here. And yeah, we ended up like leashing it for them. Even though we get the gold off it, it doesn't really matter, because this Otacon pretty much is just relying on like who wants to get all those roses. And so not only do they get Otacon, they more than likely get like free walk here to Dragon. Oh, you know what? Actually, it looks like they ended on us. Yeah. Again, an unfortunate circumstance where like we, very similar to game one, we have the gun and we are pulling it, but we are pulling it in the opposite direction. We're pulling it towards us. We need to be playing with our own priority and our own strength. This was a great fight, but look at this. As we send so many resources top, 2 laners to like battle it out for CS at this point pretty much. Now mid is like fully shoving. Okay, and bot lane, there's no one to tend to this wave, and bot lane, there's no one to tend to the dragon, and that's pretty much, you know, gonna be their second dragon at the game. It's just these macro mistakes, right? We're really hungry. We see red in our eyes, and then we just perma want to go for those types of fights. We're not so much looking for, you know, these smarter fights. Karthus is dead here. Because unfortunately, ults directly in. I think that you ult in when they're fighting, rather than just walk up. You could have saved yourself a lot of time there. And you also had flash up. We got to use those flashes a lot egregiously. A lot more egregiously, sorry. Alright, looks like we're going to death push for a Baron. This is a very weird angle here because we're the ones that need to go into them. Yeah, it's kind of tricky to play this right now. Alawi was trying to go for the wave. Kaisa's still trying her best here to actually get into these fights. Ooh, very rough fight. We'd used a flash there from Thresh. Alawi now will go down. Kaisa's doing her best that she can do, but it's just not enough. I think your biggest issue here, as well as your Kaisa, is that you didn't fully pivot to hybrid. Right? You have what? AD for the most part. AD, 3 AD, 1 AP source. Sub AP. Okay, he's not main. He's doing a little bit of AP damage here and there. But the reason why Akali is so more vigilant than you in these fights, or at least this game, is because she does not have anyone building resistances against her. Whereas like you absolutely do, right? You have the set who's stacking HP and now stacking the Thornmail. Right, you have the Syndra who's going to be stacking Azonia. She has a cloth armor in her inventory already right now. Pantheon as well, like going to be soon stacking Black Cleaver HP and then potentially looking for Dead Man's later on. Very common 4th or 3rd item for Pantheon support or jungle. Beautiful hook there, but we just got to be like more aware of what exactly we're building as well. We got a couple more fights by the looks of it. I think Thresh, at this point, what you just needed to do was just hover the Kaisa, and a lot more actively as you have been. This is an extremely weird timer because Thresh is backing, and then we like go all the way forward to go for this fight. Either we are fighting again all S5, or we are not fighting at all because we are running into their bulk. We are running into the majority of their team. Whereas like we do not have that capability to do that, but they do. Because they have the damage sources that are split. Thresh should not be as melee as he is. Just give this inhib. Beautiful take on the Karthus. Free lane for you, or free wave rather. Nice try again on the Thresh. I love how you've been actively looking for hooks, even if they're not really going anywhere right now. Some of them definitely have changed the outcome of this game so far, at least. Or at least from the looks of it, if I had not seen the timeline prolong that. Now it looks like we're going to be building into the Bloodthirster, which I think might just not be the most ideal for you. I think you get a lot more value if you did want to go AD, just going the LDR and not the Terminus. Terminus is going to be stealing the armor, whereas the extra AD that LDR would have been providing you would have been massive. You also alternatively could have just went Bork against some of these health stackers. Bork would have been pretty nice and giving you a lot more sustain in this game. But yeah, this is just such an unfortunate position to be in right now. And I think it's just because we like walked into that one Herald fight very awkwardly. It does look like there's a little bit of a skirmish here and there, and our Nexus towers do end up respawning. But still, it's going to be hell to try actually to get there. Nice. I think your hands are there. I just don't think the macro, like the team's macro right now is just a little bit off. We're trying to do too much and we're trying to be perfect at everything, but we're not like good at everything. When we're perfect at everything, we're sacrificing means of this game. Alawis in the back here, and basically now this is just pretty much game, but you know, we need to be focused on like farming. I think that you need a nice balance of farming and the kill taking. And I think that's exactly why we're seeing a couple of these lower vision scores, especially towards like the 5.5, even on wins and losses combined. Just, you know, being free and able to call out, hey, I am not rotating for that. I am in threat of death here. Hey, I do not have tempo. Hey, I do not have advantage. Hey, I can buy this item, right? Talking more, being communicative more, it really goes a long way. And there's a lot that goes into this game that is just not, and there's just not dependent on like how many kills you get, because you ended that game with what, like 16 or 18 kills and you still lost. We just need a nice balance of all the macro stuff. Okay, those were 3 games. I know that probably either felt like a long time or quick, depending on how you're absorbing this information. But just to round off, I touched upon it earlier, but I want to talk about some suggestions here just after seeing the games. Now, granted, my assuming that the first 2 for that scrim set were not Havoc, my portion, like my sample size here, is very small in terms of what we could play. If we are against squishies, I think that what you should do is pick up the Blitz if you have not already, and or pick up the Renata. I think Renata would have been a champ that you absolutely would have loved to play, especially seeing how you're like constantly looking for fights. I think Renata as well would pair well with Beast's kind of nature of fighting forever, or at least you can keep other teammates alive as well. I think Renata would be my suggestion here for you to play, and Blitz. I would also honestly throw in something unconventional too, so like a Zyra, a Pantheon, a Zac, just things that really take the enemy off a surprise and that can either, one, deny their champion. So in the case of Zyra, she denies all engages by pretty much having those plants block the main form of engage for her. Or second, you know, having multiple forms of like unconventional stuns or CCs like Zac and Pantheon. I think it's really good and great to like slot into like flex teams or a competitive team if you are able to flex those roles. Beast, I did see you all across 3 games. From what I saw, I was very impressed in terms of how you're able to get kills here and there. What I think really needs to be worked on is our kind of the waves in which we are fighting, right? Are we shoving and then fighting? Are we just running past everything? Are we taking into account, you know, our strength in lane? And are we trying too early to control and to translate that to a team fight, right? You can be 5-0 in lane and then go to a team fight and then just get one shot by the Riven as you did. But is there more of an advantage in us staying in the bot lane and going now 7-0 or 8-0 or whatever and getting that first tower? I think yes, you may yourself may disagree or see some other type of alternative. I just think that you are a player that takes a lot of great fights in the bot lane, but not necessarily you're there always for these little skirmishes that break out. And I feel as if when you're the one arriving late in all of these games, when the fight goes bad, I think that's kind of that pivotal moment in that game where you look back at it in retrospective and you say, oh shoot, I should have been there, right? So to combat that, I think champions that you could absolutely play would be a Jinx. If you are accelerated in the lane, you'll be accelerated in team fights. Ezreal, you get to fights a lot quicker and it's a lot safer to play in that lane portion, especially when you like want to walk up and you can free shove to your heart's content. Or 3, Tristana. I think Tristana would absolutely suit your playstyle where you just want to shove. If you want to shove and go for plates, now you actually get a champion that does want to do that and can do that at a very high and consistent level. But that brings me to the end of this. Would you imagine that? It's been 1 hour and 30 minutes of us talking this fireside. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to DM me at Discord. That is xcrimsonlol, xcrimsonlol, all one word, lowercase. And hopefully you found this entertaining. Hopefully you found this useful. If you want to book another follow-up session, if you want a clarification, just let me know. I'm always available. Thank you very much, and have yourself a great day.